Hello everyone, and welcome to the studio and welcome to spring. It is absolutely glorious in here today. But before I introduce you to these beautiful spring blooms, let's talk about the design that I'll be sharing with you. I guess to celebrate spring, we will be creating a spring harvest centerpiece. This design would be perfect for a gathering or a party down the centre of your dining table, centre of an outdoor table, really to showcase the fruits and vegetables and blooms of spring. So I can't wait to get going with it. All right, but first of all, let's talk about the mechanics. As you know, I haven't used foam for a very long time, and to be honest, even if there was a new biodegradable 100% eco-friendly version, I don't know if I'd still use it. I still think flowers much prefer water any day, and I actually quite like using the mechanics that I use already. So let me talk you through those. So this is a ceramic trough. We would traditionally have these in floristry and they fit perfectly 2 bricks of foam, but we won't be doing that today. So the mechanics that I like to use for any of these ceramics and for a lot of my work is bird wire. And you may have heard people talk about chicken wire as being an alternative. I actually like bird wire better. So the bird wire has a smaller hole than the chicken wire, is a lot easier to manipulate, so it's a bit softer, and I find that it supports my flowers better, especially with these smaller holes. So we make a sausage. I measure the wire to the width of the pot, and then I roll a length up so that it basically creates about 3 rolls of wire within that little sausage. And then I make it so that the wire is a little bit bigger than the container, so that when we wedge it in, it's really nice and firm and it sits down into the pot. If there is a little bit of space between the wire and the base of the pot, that's really helpful because it allows your stems to go right to the very base. So don't worry about trying to push the wire in all the way to the bottom. And then I simply fill that up with clean water. Now, if this was a design that you were creating in your florist shop or in your studio, and you were sending this out for, a delivery, you would essentially maybe only fill it to half. Once it gets delivered to the home, you could then fill it up to the top, or for a wedding or reception, fill it up when you get on site, or just instruct your recipient of the flowers to do that. But you'll see there I've filled it up to about 3/4 of the way up with water, which will be fine. Okay, so let me introduce you to these little friends I have here today. We have some beautiful local scabiosa. You'll know that I've used the white ones before. Gorgeous purple. Today, we'll be also bringing in the purple buddleia, which smells divine. Purple tulips, just coming through winter and spring. The freesias, which are just absolutely gorgeous. Lots of beautiful movement with the freesias. And something for a little bit different today, I guess, for me, is bringing in some beautiful fruits and vegetables. So I've just looked at the colours of the flowers that I have available and just tied these same tones and colours in together with these fruits and vegetables. So little Italian eggplants or aubergines, red pears, these absolutely gorgeous little green and yellow spotted apples, which I just love. And I've also got red cabbage leaves, which I can't wait to show you how we're going to use those. We've got the ranunculus. Absolutely gorgeous. They're the first of the season. I couldn't wait to use those today. Some kale, you'll see down there, which is an ornamental kale, not for eating. The anemones, which again have just started and they're just enormous. So both the ranunculus and the anemones and the freesias actually and the scabiosa are from Genema Flower Farm, which is quite close, to me here. I'm also going to use another flower today that would be very common for most people in their gardens. And that is the strelitzia or bird of paradise. I think people are never quite sure how to use these. Often in floristry, we don't tend to use them as much because people have them in their garden, and I think, we feel like we can't use them when they're quite a common flower, but I just think they're amazing. The colour is sensational, and I'll show you a couple of little tips and things about birds, but we're going to use them today. And the last little one I want you to meet is this absolutely delightful chrysanthemum. No longer boring. Chrysanthemums have just taken on a whole new revival in the last couple of years. So you can see how absolutely gorgeous he is with the aubergine or the eggplant. It's just stunning. I love it. Okay. So when we're using, really for this design, I'm keeping the foliage to a minimum. We're going to be using the cabbage leaves and some ivy leaves, but essentially the heroes are the flowers for this one. It's going to be lots of colour, lots of spring vibrance, and in a garden sort of style. But what we want to also consider when we're creating a design for a centerpiece or a middle of a table is what we would traditionally call them as a long and low. So length, but low in stature, so that when you're sitting at the table, you can still converse with your friends. It's nothing worse than going to all the effort to create an absolutely gorgeous bouquet or an arrangement for the middle of the table. No one can see each other. They pick it up, move it, put it somewhere else, and that's it. Not on my table. If I'm making the effort to create something beautiful, I want everyone to appreciate it and look at it. So we'll be creating this that it's viewed from all sides. And again, that it has a little story here and there around as you walk around, so that it's quite interesting no matter where you look. I'm also going to incorporate and kind of marry the colours up a little bit as well. So we're going to start with these lovely cabbages, move into these reds and, this lovely burgundy purples, into the birds, and then move through into the yellows and all the citrusy colours. So that's my plan. I always have a really loose plan and let the flowers decide once I start making. Okay, let's have a look at these cabbage leaves. Not such a fan to eat, for me anyway, but absolutely adore the colour of red cabbage. It's so fun to use, and it's so sturdy, and it's quite pliable, and I just love the veins and the overall feel and look of it. So I've got a few different pieces here, just taken those outside leaves off. My daughter actually grew these beautiful cabbages. She's very proud. And we're just going to tuck them in to the edge here. And I might actually wire that one around. So I've just got my 20 gauge wires. I'm just going to take that through the leaf. Just give it a little leg to take in through that wire, just to create some folds and some movement with those leaves. And this one we might take in on this side. And again, I'm just kind of folding it and rolling it so that we can play with those later if I need to, but just kind of creating a nice little nest and a little bed there for our flowers to go into. Now let's have a look at the aubergines. So whenever you're using fruits or lemons or citrus, anything like that, I tend to work with them so that I can see the little, just trim those off, see their little green hats and their little green stems. And they're quite soft, as you can imagine. So what we need to do, and you can do these actually also with bamboo skewers. So the bamboo skewers that you have in your kitchen and you use for your cooking, you can do that as well. So I just cut down a wire for me. I've got some 20 gauge wires again, so they're nice and firm. And you're just piercing the fruit with two little wires, just to give them some little legs. so that when you're inserting them into the wire, you know, they'll sit either side of the wire, okay? So let's do that again. So if you have got a really firm fruit like some of your citrus, then probably the skewers might, you know, be a little bit easier for you to use or be a little bit more secure. Look how cute they are. And we'll put one more. Oh, don't want to see him pop out. And just popping those in there just so that they're like a, you know, cute little eggplant family in there together. So I love the colour of all of those together. So let's bring in the chrysanthemums. Making sure we strip all the foliage off the stems. And don't be afraid to edit the stems as well. I tend to take off any of that extra foliage off the chrysanthemums. I'm not a real fan of the foliage, and it sometimes will get a little soft and wilt, whereas the flowers just last and last and last. Okay. So we're going to sit, we might even sit that in a little bit lower. Piercing that through the wire. And we're going to have some of these flowers quite upright, and we'll extend out there as well. So I've just cut down that chrysanthemum into two so that I can give it some, you know, still utilise these gorgeous little buds. Trim off that middle, because they're really gorgeous. So I've trimmed that off so that you've got little buds and these little stems. And I'll just take that one over to this side. And you're just piercing that through the holes of the wire. Yeah, that's beautiful. We might take that one down through the centre. So you can see that they're just escaping from the folds of the cabbage leaves, and then joining in with, you know, becoming a little bit of a family over there with the eggplant. Okay, now there's something else that I was leaving the flower farm the other day, and on the side of the road was some shivery bits of grass, but I did notice that on one side of them they have this absolutely beautiful kind of burgundy that I just knew would tie in lovely with the cabbage leaves. So to extend this design out a little further from the pot, we're going to take these out this side. So to move some of those out of the way. And they'll really easily pierce through the leaves, which is handy as well. But you can see then that it'll allow just a nice interest to escape out of the end of the pot. I don't really like things to be cut, you know, off sharp. So that will be lovely out that side. Okay, so we're going to build now into the centre. I'm going to add some of my ivy leaves. So this is the ivy that's growing on the glasshouse. You can see some of the leaves are absolutely huge, the size of your hand, which are just beautiful. They last so well. When I've got them in a vase, they're just, you know, 4 weeks and they're still looking amazing. So I just cut those down. We're going to sit those in again really low. So all the leaves are doing is hiding the mechanics and giving essentially a bed for the flowers to grow from. and I need to connect, you know, this side, the burgundy story, the burgundy veggie story here into the next section. And we're also going to bring in these purples. So purples and reds actually work really well together, which you might think is a bit strange, but I'll show you in a minute how they tie in. So again, we're just stripping these leaves, making sure that we've got some really lovely bare stems, and just going to, you can see that buddleia and those cabbage leaves are just meant to be together. And although we're grouping, we're making sure that we move really gently from one group to the next, and it's not just a, you know, just a line. Yes. I'm loving that. Buddleia next to that. Okay. So let's bring in some kale. I'm going to have to just lean over here, sorry. So this is ornamental kale. Kale being a very popular vegetable, I know, at the moment. Don't eat this one. It's not for eating. But the kale leaves are absolutely gorgeous. This is a mini version. It's very small. You can get some really large heads of kale available now, and also white, some that are almost completely green, so really gorgeous. And again, it just lasts so well. So I'm going to bring that in really nice and low. Just taking off those other leaves, and you can always reflex back some of these leaves, just flicking them. Sorry, I'll do that a little bit slower. Just flicking them over inside out, and you see that you're creating like another little flower. Keeping those in really nice and low in there. Maybe that'll do for now. And I'll just need to reach over here. Look at you. Enormous. And, you know, anemones are just so spring. You know, the last of winter, beginning of spring is when we have all these beautiful anemones and ranunculus. And I think one of the reasons I think that I'm such a fan is because they're just so seasonal. We've only got them for just the shortest time, and it just gets you excited to see that they've arrived, and oh wow, now I can use them, and you just know that they're not, you know, another 5 weeks down the track, all the anemones and the ranunculus are finished. You can see how huge they are, absolutely enormous. So nice angled cut so that you can go through your wire, and you can see that the wire is just supporting everything really easily. Every placement is exactly where I've put it. And that's really the trick to that is the double roll or the triple roll of the wire. If you just put a single layer, you can see that it wouldn't be stable enough. Okay, now we're going to bring in our birds, because we're moving, as I said, we're transitioning from all of these darker colours in through the purple and then into our yellows and oranges. So to do that, you can see the bird is doing that all by itself. This is a perfect representation of a complementary colour scheme, and that's what nature does so beautifully, with the orange and the purpley blue. Now, a little thing that I wanted to share with you about birds is they essentially have up to 5 flowers sitting in this little bud pod here. So when your birds start, you'll see they start to flick open, and if you just run your finger gently along the seam there, you can see that you'll be able to start just popping out the next flower. Okay, and you'll see the next one is there ready to go. So as it matures, this will start to pull itself back all by itself and then allow this one to spring open. So never feel like once that first flower is finished that your birds are done. You've got sometimes up to 4 stems, 4 other flowers in there. Okay, so I'm going to bring the birds and give it a little bit of height. I know we said with a long and low you want to be able to look through, but just by adding just 1 or 2 stems will give you that interest in varying heights, still allow you to see your friends, okay? And it's a shame to completely, let these guys disappear too down low. Okay, sits there perfectly. So you can always just pull the wire up as you pop your stems in. You can see that one's ready for the next one to pop open. Look at all that sticky honey. Tricky things with birds is they often face a different direction. So let's bring this one into this side. And again, I'm just going to pull the wire up just so that I don't push the wire down too hard when I'm inserting. Yeah. So I quite like when they're going different directions and bringing in that other movement. I don't think we'll use the other one for now. Okay. Now let's bring in I think I'll bring in some of that lovely red from these pears because I want to continue that same colour just in here down in low. And again, just piercing those. Into that little area there. This one. Yep. And see how that colour there of the pear marries to the base colour of the bird of paradise as well. So colour is, you'll hear me talk about colour a lot, but it's really important that, there's that lovely transition from one to the next for me. I think that's something that I look for a lot. Now I know I've had a freesia that again ties in really lovely with that colour. And let's bring in some of these enormous anemones. Look at that. It's just huge. Just remove that one little petal because he's been eaten by a little bug, but maybe that's kind of cute too. Okay, so just pop that little anemone in there. Again, to tie in that lovely red. I think these 3 can be up here together. So the pears are sitting in there low. They're just sort of drawing your eye in to the base and to something of that same kind of red tones. It's important to have those in there together. With the freesias, I will be allowing to escape. They're going to be, if you might have heard me say it before, my hey you moment, and they'll be escaping out of the design as well. Okay, let's have a look on the other side. We're going to bring in some of these ivy leaves over here. Again, just to lovely base dark green. And I just want to make sure that our mechanics are hidden. Okay, now it's time to bring in some of these lovely oranges and yellows to again transition from this orange from the birds down to this side of the design. So just getting a few stems there that I can see that will work colour-wise and shape. Absolutely love that little one. We might have to bring our another pear in and our apples in a minute. So definitely need to bring this orange in. You can see that the orange needs to be repeated somewhere in the design. Okay, so, but it is quite short, so just making sure that I don't cut too much off of that orange. And just placing these again in a type of naturally growing placements. So a little bit, I might just cut that one down a little bit. Bring that one into there. Yeah, they're really cute. The colours of that one, this peach and moving into oranges, and it's just divine. Yeah, that's beautiful. We might let this little one escape out the front a little bit. Okay, so I feel like it's time for these little apples to come onto the scene. Again, we're going to skewer our little apples. Push them in there so they're really nice and firm. Oh, and not poking out the top. And just nestling them in there. That green also mirrors really nicely with the green of the leaf as well. Colour, colour, colour. So this type of design, again, being in water, could be pre-made days before the event. You would not have to do it, create on the day of if you didn't have the time. Something like this would be amazing for a bridal event. So you could potentially have all the fruits popped in days and days before, some of your foliage elements in early, and then just popping the other fresh flowers in later. But because they're in water, they're so happy. You know, if you were using this in foam, you essentially couldn't use, well, I wouldn't put ranunculus and anemones in foam. I know they just don't drink well enough out of foam. So, know that they're going to be really happy in water. So again, just creating a little bed with the fruits and letting the flowers just sit above those. So your eye just gets drawn in. Now we might bring the freesias in. Okay, so as I said to you before, I want the freesias to be our little hey you moments. I want them to just escape out of the whole design. I'm going to use a mixture of colours with these because they're essentially, what I have here is a range of colours that tie in with everything in the design. So they're this beautiful yellow one. He definitely needs to jump out of the design. A lovely curve movement on him. Yeah, it's beautiful. Oh, there's another one of that kind of salmony pink colour. Tuck that in there. Okay, so once I get close to the finish of the design, I'm just going, I guess, back to the start and having a look and seeing if there's, a little spot or a little someone that needs to be a part of that little family, and then moving into this area and seeing if there's a little bit of I think white could come into this deep purple and just escape out of there. Yeah, beautiful. And again, I'll bring a white out this side. So I hope you can see that the bird of paradise, although they're large, and we need something dominant in this design, that's really our focal, they tie in really beautifully. They're striking, but they're not overpowering the whole design. And to finish off this little area here, I think I'll bring in a little bit more of our buddleia. You could put wattle, or, I think it's nice to mix it up so that we're not running the ivy leaves all the way to the end. That nice buddleia just works beautifully at creating essentially a filler. And this nice piece here will do the job. Okay, I feel like we're nearly finished. You'll notice that I haven't put the tulips in. I just feel that it doesn't need it, to be honest. I feel like the tulips would be, these anemones and these ranunculus are just so big. Their faces are so big and full. I think that adding another flower like the tulips, they would essentially get lost. So especially when you're working in a shop environment, you're looking at the economy of the way you're putting your design together so that you're utilising the whole budget in the best way you possibly can. And tulips are a more expensive flower, so would they be warranted in here? Would they be shown off to their absolute best in amongst this garden? And I'm thinking maybe not so much. So I'll keep those for another time. So I hope you've enjoyed something a little bit different today. Our long and low design in our ceramic trough to create a spring harvest centerpiece. I hope that's encouraged you also to use some more unusual ingredients like fruits and vegetables, pods. All botanicals are beautiful with floral designs, so it doesn't have to just be about the flowers. If you've got any questions at all, please pop them in the comments box below, and I will again have a very detailed design notes attached to this one explaining all of my different bits and pieces that we're using today. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Happy spring, and I'll see you next time.